Hey everyone, so happy tax day. Happy have your money taken from you with the thinly veiled threat of violence day. I spent yesterday doing my taxes and I could not help but think about the fact that I was being forced to give money that paid for the nearly $100 million price tag on the missile strike on Syria. We are being forced to pay for an ill-conceived, poorly thought out, useless, uninformed bombing of what now appears to be a medical research center in Syria. What a joke of a country we have become. And we're also paying for military bases and a military presence in countries that most people aren't even aware of. Do you remember back in February of this year when 4 US soldiers were killed in Niger? And even some members of Congress were scratching their heads due to them being completely unaware that we even had soldiers in that country? You get to pay for that complete waste. And you're also paying over $2 billion to go to the DEA so they can waste unbelievable amounts of time, energy, and manpower on throwing innocent people into cages, usually over having a plant in their pocket. You're also paying $5.1 billion to the FDA so they can hold back potentially life-saving drugs in trials that move at the speed of molasses. It's literally uncountable and unknowable how many lives have been lost due to medications that have been tied up in red tape due to the FDA. Then when those drugs finally become approved and it saves lives, do we hear from the FDA? Do the families of deceased people get an apology for being denied a medication that could have helped? Does the FDA even recognize it when they hold back a drug that eventually becomes approved and saves lives? Do they think about the fact that they are largely responsible for the deaths of those people who died from something that could have been helped by the medication that they held back? Of course we never hear from the FDA, but thank God for tax day, where you're forced to pay their salaries whether you like the FDA or not. We also get to pay for the IRS itself. We pay roughly $11.5 billion to them so they can tear through the lives of people they audit to make sure that every drop of wealth that can be extracted from someone gets taken from them. We get to pay $11.5 billion so they can target political organizations they don't like what they did with conservative organizations with the exempt status. We get to pay them $11.5 billion to make sure that they're able to get Uncle Sam's portion of money that they had next to nothing to do with. You start a business and it's successful, the IRS is going to come by and make sure they get their cut so they can pay for God knows what. And as I alluded to in the beginning, we get to pay $716 billion for national security, which involves the US having bases, troops, aircraft, supplies, tanks, military vehicles, and plenty more throughout no less than 70 countries in the world, all of which have bills that fall on you. At the end of the day, let's say you pay 20% of your yearly salary in income taxes. That means from January 1st until about March 14th, you worked for free. Given a 40-hour work week, you worked a bit over 10 weeks without making a dime. That is roughly 400 hours of work you put in, and you get nothing to show for it, given a 20% tax on your yearly income. In fact, you worked and the government extracted it all from you. It doesn't feel that way because they let you still get a check during that time. They just skim it off the top of everything, so it isn't as apparent on how much they actually screw you. Anyway, tax day is the worst holiday of them all. I say we stop celebrating it. Thanks, and that's all.